In the previous video, we created a script and simple visualization to generate flight movements across the world based on a schedule. In this video, I would like to send this generated data to an Apache Kafka topic. For this, I'm going to use a Node.js wrapper for the Kafka C and C++ library, so Node.rd Kafka, and this is the repository. So we are going to use this library. There are different libraries available for Apache Kafka if you are using JavaScript, but I think this one is kind of my favorite. So here we have the npm install node.rd Kafka. Let's run it and let's install this library in our project. And once it's installed, it will be added into the package JSON when we will come to the point, into addition with our course and express. I don't think we will need the visualization part for this segment of our experiment. They're going to rely on whatever is provided from the flights script. So in a similar way, we are going to just get the flights in progress on a regular basis and send that information into an Apache Kafka topic. And while it's being installed here, let's also talk about the server. So you can run Kafka locally if you want. I will be using Ivan for Apache Kafka, and you feel free as well to get Ivan account and use it. You will get some free credits, which actually helps run some experiments, and it's super convenient to create the server. So I'll link the stuff below for you to get your Kafka service. Cool, so we installed the Node.rd Kafka. Let me check again in the package JSON. And what we want to do, we would like to create a producer. So whatever data we will be generating here, we'll be sending to Apache Kafka. So for this particular part, we don't really even need a consumer. We just need to produce the data to Kafka topic. For that, let's add a new file, which we will call producer.js. Yes, we will add it to the GitHub repository. And in the producer.js, we will need to include the reference to the library which we just installed. So it will be Kafka, let's say, and then it will require Node.rd Kafka, this one. Additionally, we will be storing the credentials to the Kafka. If you're running it locally, I guess you just need the URL to access to Kafka. Since I'm using it in the cloud, I would need some properties. But actually, let's continue, and we will come back to the properties stuff a bit later, so it will be a bit more logical. So const producer, this will be our producer object, and here I can say it will be a new Kafka producer, and over here we will get a set of properties which we need to connect to our server. And this will depend exactly if it's in the cloud, if it's on your local machine, and so on. So first property which we need to specify is more or less like URI, so the location of your Kafka. So it will be localhost something for local ones, or for mine it will be Ivan something in the URL. So it will be metadata, broker, list. Here you have multiple possibility to have multiple brokers. We will have only one, so some value here will be. We will add it in a second. Then we also need to have a secure connection. So, for example, we know where our Kafka server is located, and that Kafka server is open for requests from outside of the world, which is also important. But if we have that, we also need to establish this kind of a secure channel of the data to send there, so that no one from outside would be able to spy and look what exactly we are transmitting there. I mean, we don't really have many secrets regarding the locations of the aircraft, but in the real life, with real projects, you definitely don't want to have anyone reading the data in the flight. We are going to use SSL, so security protocol. This will be SSL. I probably should use consistently same types of quotes. And for SSL, we will need to have 3 values. For a remote server, and it's probably easier to just show what exactly we will need, this will be access key, access certificate, and CA certificate. And you can read more about those. So CA certificate is public one, and those are private for your particular server. Let's add those. It will be SSL, key, location, and those are files. So I'm not going to copy paste the content here, but rather we will point to the location of that content. And the final property which I want to add, and this is an optional one, but this is a callback for delivery which we might need later, so that we let the Kafka then inform us that the message has been delivered. Now let's populate the properties which allow us to connect to our server. And we can use a library which I really like, or which I use very, very frequently, the .env library. And .env library allows us to handle the secrets. So let's see how it works. Let's first install it. So I will do npm install .env. And with that, we also need to add the environment file. I will just do the env over here. We don't want to add it to the git, and I would like also to add it to the git ignore, so that we are not committing it. To make it kind of easy for the rest of us to use, by adding here example. So okay, it's fine, and that one we will add. So whenever you are checking out the GitHub repository and the link in the description, you will just change the .env example to .env and populate the values there. And the values which we will need are the following. So we will need over here Kafka, URI, as some value. Then we will need SSL key location, SSL certificate location, and SSL CA location. Those 3 files we need to add and then specify the location there. So this is an example. I will just copy the same for us, and we will populate the values. So Kafka URI is the value which I can take from the landing page of the service over here. For you, it might be localhost or something else. Then 3 files I download from this part of the service, and I already have them. So let me just copy. And I will put them into a certificates folder. So let's add certificates folder over here, and then inside of it I will add those 3 certificates. Did I just add them? No, I didn't want to add. We will git reset and certificates. Cool. So that they are not part of the folder which we assign into the GitHub repository. And in the git ignore, I will also add those certificates. Now in the .env file, we need to specify the location of those files, and this will be certificates service key. Then we have, I wonder if I should actually add them like this. I think without the quotes it still will work, but so service certificate, and then finally we will have and CA PAM, the public one. And then we will just take them from the process environment. So if we will include here the .env as a dependency, so require .env, and we need to initiate by calling the .env config, and by default it will look for the .env file. You can specify different variations where you're storing and how you're naming stuff, but we are using the default setup. And once we did that, now all the values from the .env will appear as an environment variables in the code. So here now what I can do, I can say process environment, and to call the name of the property, and let's do this the same for all those things. So once we created the producer, we can tell the producer to connect to Apache Kafka. So it will be producer connect. Here we can enter some optional properties which we don't need, and then here we can also put an optional callback. Usually I use it to catch any errors. So if you have an error, then we can output that error into the terminal, and kind of helps us to debug the stuff. We also have plenty of different events which we have with the producer. So if I will put here on, here we have a variety of events. Let me see if I can get the events over here. Let's see, maybe we have some in the documentation. Oh yeah, actually we do have, look at this. So event listener map. So we can have plenty of additional events to which we want to react, or kind of like, let's say when we run into an issue, or for example, like delivery reports, this is where we can actually, let's actually add this one. So I will copy this one and go back to the producer, and then we say, okay, so the name of the event is the delivery report, and let's put some kind of a callback. And here, I guess they do put the report here. Actually, they suggested the correct properties. Beautiful. And then I can console log report. Maybe let's actually do it something like, so that we're not guessing later what was it. I will put like this, report. So this is, in this way you can add numerous different additional information, especially when something goes wrong. Usually I am putting a lot of like console logs and tracking all those events and what is happening, just to understand where stuff is going wrong. Yes, so but this is our small module, and what we can right now do, we can actually continue within this module. We can of course export it as a module and then use it in some other part of the functionality, but I think actually it's pretty convenient to stay here. And then we will need another event producer. Maybe let's put them together with the delivery report, producer on, and the event I'm interested in is called ready. And this is the event when we can start producing the messages. So when the connection happens successfully, and then producer is ready to send data. We can get that method from the flights, get flights in progress. We can include that one, const require, and it was flights. I'm going into this. And now we can run that method on a regular interval, and whatever we retrieve, we will send to Apache Kafka. So let's do it. Const flights, the ones which we want to send. Then we run this method, the producer, produce. And here in the producer produce, we need to specify the topic. Let's call it current flights. Or maybe like flights in the air. Let's do it, flights in the air. In the air. Then partition. We don't really have to specify partition specifically here, so I can keep it null. Then the message itself, I believe that we want to have a message per individual flight, versus this returns us the whole array with the flights right now happening in the air. So we do it flights for each, and for every flight we are going to do producer, produce all of that. Format, no, okay, let me, so that we have a bit more space. Flights in the air, now message, and the message will be, so here we need to do something with the buffer from and the data. And because flight is actually a JSON object, but we want to transform it into a string, JSON, stringify, and then we put the flight there. And finally, we might also want to add the key. If you're familiar with Apache Kafka, you probably know that we have a message which we can send to Apache Kafka topic, but also we have a key. And key is not mandatory, but key sometimes is very helpful. And in this particular case, I think key would help us in a given amount of time to be able only to take care about the latest position of the airplane, not to have all the mess all together, but we can always kind of pay attention to the latest value with the key from the topic, especially if we are going later to visualize it, something with OpenSearch. That will be helpful. I know it sounds a bit confusing, but just let's add the key and then we will see later how we are going to use it. And we need something unique about the flights, so it will be a flight and it will be an inner object of the flight, or actually nope, I'm wrong, it will be the flight. Let me get back to their flights over here and see what data we have. Yeah, we have the flight number. So I would like to add here a flight number as the key. And I'm not sure what exactly, yeah, we don't really need this one, so it will be a flight number. And finally, I believe we can, please show me this value. Oh. We can add the timestamp. The timestamp might be also helpful for us, again, with visualizations, or even like for the time windows and for the rest would be really helpful to have the timestamp, and the timestamp will be date now. And after the producer produce, what we want also to do, we want to flush and send the data. So we will say producer flush. And flush has, I guess it has half of a second as a default value. Yes. So that should be enough to collect them all and then flush and send them all together into Apache Kafka. So let's do the node producer. Oh, and I think it will fail. So the flights in the air topic does not exist. And by default, a good practice is not to allow to send data to a topic which does not exist. I will create a topic here. And now we can run the node producer. So we will get the data only once. Okay, that's fine. I think actually we can totally do it like this right now, but we need to run this code on a regular basis. Would have been nice to add some console logs there, but I didn't do that, so let's do it the hard way and we will go and check what exactly we have in the topic. So I will go and enable the REST protocol so that we can fetch the messages and see if we get anything, and apparently we didn't get anything from that topic yet. So something didn't work, which, I mean, not really surprising, right? Oh, but look at this. Last of set is 113. Okay, so maybe we have a bit of delay, but the data came there. So fetch messages and look at this. So now I have a flight with the departure time, this information of the flight we had. Do we have a key here? What is interesting, I don't see the key. And I would really like to have a key there. Let's just console log it. For every flight, I would like a console log, flight number, and then let's put it in the curly braces. Okay, that at least means that the issue is somewhere in the JavaScript code. Let me reformat this. Okay, let's just do it in an easy and a bit of a lazy way. Okay, we don't need it anymore. So the flight, yes, it's totally true. Okay, that comes back to the whole data architecture which I have here, which I'm not super proud of, but the fix is easy. So because we have a flight object which we have over here, but in the flights. I'm actually including the flight itself. Probably I need to make it flat over here to avoid that embarrassing issue. But let's just keep it as it is. So here we have the flight number. So now I believe if we run that code, then our producer will get correctly the information about the flight number as the key for our data. So if we'll fetch the messages, and it will take a bit of time, we get this LH218. What's next? Instead of calling just a single get flights in progress, what I want to do is actually update that information on a regular basis and send the current position of an aircraft to Apache Kafka. And for this, we are going to use the function which we used so many times already, set interval. And here within that function, we will have some function which we are going to call on an interval, let's say every second. Every second sounds a bit too much. How about we do it every 10 seconds? So every 10 seconds, we are going to send the data which comes from the get flights in progress. So let me just copy all of that over here and put it into within the set interval. So every 10 seconds, we will retrieve the flights from get flights in progress. We will process each flight from there and produce a message, and then eventually we will flush the data so that it's sent to the topic. And that will happen every 10 seconds. Let's make it easy for us to test, and we will put every second for now. Now we will stop the producer, run it again. And if I will go back to my topic, I guess the increase in the records there should be pretty obvious. So the partition, so we have 462. Right now it should be more. Okay, it's almost 2000. So the data is flowing in. Let's also really quickly look at the messages so that it doesn't really send us this time some gibberish, but we still have the flight number as a key and the value which we have. And this is how we can move the generated data into Apache Kafka topic. So the next step would be to use the data from Apache Kafka topic, maybe with a combination of Apache Flink or OpenSearch, I haven't decided yet, to analyze the data, to do some aggregations, and with Apache Flink we can also do aggregations per a window of time, so maybe like to see some dynamics of the flight change, something like this.